Hi everybody, welcome to today's Inspirational Ambassador story. My name is Rachel, I'm an Ambassador Communications Officer here at Teach First, and I'm joined today by William, who is a 2020 training programme ambassador, but is currently out in Ukraine volunteering. So William, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself too.
Yes, so I'm William. I was 20 in the 2020 cohort in the West Midlands as a computer science teacher based in Wolverhampton at Aldersley High School. As Rachael said, I'm like currently volunteering in Ukraine. I've been here for about 3, 4 months with a slight break in the middle and just working on a whole bunch of projects, really.
Yeah, I guess to kickstart this conversation that we've got today, then, do you want to tell me and everybody else watching a bit of an overview of your kind of career journey from doing the Teach First training program to kind of where you're at now?
Yes, so basically, I didn't know anything about Teach First until about 2 weeks before I actually applied. Basically, a friend of mine was applying for different graduate schemes, and she had mentioned to me about Teach First. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. So I did a bit of research into it, applied, got onto the program. Before that, I was working in a bunch of jobs. So I did a computer science degree, and then I did a few years as a web developer. I also worked in sales for a stretch, and just being a general software developer. I was self-employed for a year as well. I also had a background with doing training with a youth organization, and that's what really inspired me to try teaching because I thought, well, I'm doing this as a hobby basically, so I may as well do it as a job. And it was brilliant. I did my program. I did 2 years at Aldersley High School, and then I decided I wanted to take a bit of a career break, and then just started traveling. And then basically, I met some Ukrainian guys in Poland, and they were like, "Can you come and drive for us for a few weeks in Kyiv with animal rescue?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I worked with them for like 3, 4 weeks, I think. And then I met another volunteer from America, and they were like, "Do you want to come work in the kitchen in Kharkiv?" And I'd never even heard of Kharkiv, to be honest. Why not? And then I've been here ever since. So yeah, I started off. I was working with a humanitarian kitchen, delivering food and stuff to affected communities, and then I'm now working with aid delivery and with a church-based group and doing the same thing. But we're also working on a project to build a bomb shelter for a school, which is probably a sentence you never thought you'd hear in 2023.
Hmm.
But that's the unfortunate reality of Ukraine. And that basically the school can't reopen until they have a bomb shelter, as Kharkiv is not the safest area, shall we?
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth acknowledging as well, like the not only are there so many safety implications where you're at the moment, obviously connection issues are a thing. And if throughout this conversation that we're having at the moment, there's a siren or anything, then
I
yeah, this is the life that you're living at the moment and the life that so many people in
yeah,
Ukraine are living and trying to do as best as they can with. So viewers bear with us throughout the
I,
conversation, but please
I find it a bit ironic, Rachel. As soon as you mentioned it, I had a connection issue.
yeah, exactly. That's yeah.
But that's the way it is.
That is the way it is. And so yes, obviously you went from Aldersley High School in Wolverhampton in the West
Mhm.
Midlands, and now obviously, as you say, doing various different projects out in Ukraine and still kind of yeah, connected to education as well. Yeah, you touched upon the youth work, the volunteering that you did
Mhm.
was kind of partly what inspired you and motivated you, but wondered if you might be able to go into more detail as to yeah, what kind of inspires or motivates you particularly to support children's education in disadvantaged communities.
Yeah, so one of the things that really made me really interested in Teach First was that it was the main mission, obviously, was to get rid of educational inequality. And obviously that entails giving support to people in disadvantaged areas, disadvantaged communities. And I think what really resonated with me with that was that I come from a disadvantaged area or disadvantaged community. So as you can probably guess from the accent, I'm from Northern Ireland. Specifically, I'm from County Tyrone, a town called Cookstown. Um, and it's, as I said, it's not the worst area. I love it. It's where I grew up, but it is lacking in a lot of things. The Mid Ulster Council area, to which Cookstown belongs, the poorest council areas in the UK, not even Northern Ireland, for several years. There's no cultural opportunities really. If you want anything, um, where we're at, you have to go to Belfast, which is an hour away. And I know people in the UK complain about public transport. Well, GB complain about public transport, but if you haven't experienced Northern Ireland public transport, it's lacking. Like you can't get anywhere. So like all these opportunities are just not happening for us out in the sticks of Northern Ireland. And my background itself, like I don't come from a very prosperous background. I was the first person in my family to go to university. And I didn't have a particularly great upbringing either. And whenever you combine all that, like I am the blueprint for somebody who's not going to achieve. I'm not going to make it. And I did because luckily I managed to get through my education and do quite well for myself. A little bit harder than probably most people had to get to. So I'm one of those ones who had to work the whole way through university, and so on. But once I made it, that unlocked so many doors for me. I was able to leave my hometown. I've just said I've been traveling now for nearly a year, so that's something most people don't get to do because I believe in education. So then when I got involved with Teach First, and I was put into a disadvantaged community in Wolverhampton, when you see the same signs that kids are going through, things that I went through and was able to recognize, and that made a massive impact on me. Being able to see myself in some of the kids that I was teaching and quite a lot of the kids that I was teaching. And yeah, it's just incredible to see what a difference, it's going to make to those kids whenever they're older. Because yeah, like me, in terms of the grand scheme of things, their blueprint is, that they should not make it, but fingers crossed they will. We hope they will, and that's the work we do as educators, and especially in Teach First as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is that when you're able to see those similarities and you can really empathize and understand what somebody else is going through,
Absolutely.
it does give a completely different perspective. So tell me why computer science or computing science, like how did you get into that, and like how did you make a difference in the classroom, I guess, from that point of view?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, like I worked in quite a few jobs in web development, software design, or software development. And basically for me, I came into it. It was always like a natural for me. Like I'm still addicted to video games all these years later, and that's what really prompted the interest in it. And it's like I'm really passionate about computer science. It's the future. No matter if you're technology illiterate, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to get better at it because it's not going anywhere. So yeah, I got into it, as I said, addicted to games and stuff when I was younger. And then it was like natural for me. I started programming when I was about 13. And that's 16 years ago now. And whenever I was at school, programming wasn't even taught. Like back then, there was no computing science; it was ICT, and it was just how to use Excel and stuff. And then one of the crazy things for me when I got involved in teaching was seeing how advanced even like the GCSE level or Key Stage 3 level computing science is. Like the stuff kids are doing now in the classroom at age 13, 14, I was doing in the first year of my degree. Um, and that's crazy to me, but crazy in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things like everybody now has a computer, and well, the vast majority of people do. And like I said, I'm volunteering in Ukraine. That needs financed. I can do freelance work from my laptop that I'm speaking to you on now. Like you can literally work anywhere. And as well, like from traveling, you meet these digital nomads, and they're all programmers, they're all software developers, to doing all this crazy stuff. While traveling the world and living their dreams. And to be able to tell a kid that, like, do you want to go and travel the world and do a few hours work in some exotic location? If that was me whenever I was younger, I would have been jumping at it. So yeah, I brought it whenever I went into the classroom. Obviously, I'd worked in industry, and you're able to tell kids about all these like amazing projects that you'd worked on. Like, I'll not go into full details on it because we don't have time, but like my kids always loved hearing the story of how I designed a program that ran the perfect bath for some multimillionaire, like in his mansion, and it did it all automatically.
Very interesting.
And they know computing's the future as well. Obviously, whenever they realize it's not as easy as they think it is, some of them get through that, then the kids just love it. So they do, and I think it's fantastic. To switch from it, from industry to it, to see the next generation of computer scientists, the next generation of programmers, game designers, developers, all of that. It's incredible.
Oh, I think I lost you there for a very short moment.
Oh,
I think basically it was that you it's really exciting to see the
yeah,
progress and that next generation, as you say, like really taking that forward. And I can imagine for you in particular, like seeing what else comes out in the future is going to be amazing.
yeah, for sure.
And so, as you say, obviously being in Ukraine, very, very different area to being in
Yeah,
a classroom in Wolverhampton, I'm sure.
yeah,
Like, what motivated you to volunteer there, and how can you tell us a bit more about the school bomb shelter project that is kind
yeah.
of
Yeah.
kickstarting at the moment? Yeah.
So with the school project in general, it was literally mentioned to me in passing. So as it was another volunteer had found out about it and had said the school needs a bomb shelter. They can't open until it's got one. And immediately I was just like, I need to get involved in this. I need to do what I can to help. So within Ukraine, obviously most of us who are watching basically will remember what it was like teaching during the pandemic, and so on, and all the remote learning and in the classroom, out the classroom, all of that stuff. And we had that for a year and a half, roughly a year and a
Yeah, I
half,
think so.
something like that. So in Ukraine now, they had the pandemic, and then whenever the pandemic started looking good, the invasion started and the schools were closed. So in Kharkiv, based in Kharkiv, I think I mentioned that already, which is in the east of Ukraine. Um, so if you combine the invasion so far, which is just over a year, and the 2 years since the start of the pandemic, like these kids haven't had a high quality of education now for 3 years basically, and you know, unfortunately, it doesn't look like the invasion is going to end anytime soon either. So basically, this school it's based in the North Saltivka district, in Kharkiv, and during Saltivka was heavily bombed, and there's a lot of a lot of damaged buildings and stuff so on and around and so on. Um, and basically, the government has told them they can't reopen the school until they have a bomb shelter installed. So we got involved with it. We started asking what they needed. Um, we're working to get like some documents made up, like plans and quantity surveillance, all that like very exciting construction stuff. And then the government it itself. So we're doing some fundraising with it, and we're working with the staff at the school to make that happen. Because as I said, like we remember the pandemic, we remember the impact it had on progress. and everything that came out of it, and not even from the academic side, but even from a safeguarding side, and that
Mm.
there was so many issues that have came from it, and that is still happening now. You know, a year since the last lockdown in the UK, over a year since the last lockdown in the UK. These kids are still being taught remotely. They have exams next week,
Mm.
which will affect their university choices. And yeah, they need this shelter open, so that's why we've got involved with it. And the good news is that lots of the schools and stuff are able to run, like, so they have their remote learning, but they also have like some community initiatives. So the metro system here in Kharkiv, um, because we've got all these kids' pictures, paintings, and stuff that they've made over the past few months, and they're like putting them up over all the metro stations. Um, for those that don't know, whenever there is an air raid, and there is bombings, the metros double as bomb shelters. So whenever you go down, instead of just droll concrete, you get all these lovely, colourful pictures and stuff everywhere. And all of that's going on as well to help morale for both kids
Yeah.
and adults, which is fantastic.
It sounds like so much is happening to like ensure it. And obviously, I think what's important to note as well is that for yourself and those involved in the project, like you're not experts in being able to create this. Like it's a team collective effort
Yeah,
to try and put things in place, and as you say, fundraise to help enable this to get started. So I like obviously I know we've spoken a lot about this recently, and it's just incredible, like the dedication and the conversations, and this is all obviously from a voluntary point of view from your side, like just to make sure that these children, secondary school children, am I right, or is it primary school children as
it's
well?
so it's slightly different here. So they it's ages 5 to around 17.
Oh, okay, so it
So
encompasses,
it's
yeah, like a
yeah,
huge age range. Like to be able to have that chance is like an opportunity, as you say, to be in person in it and have that safety. That's the important
of
thing,
course, yeah,
obviously. That's the safety requirements that's needed to unlock
yeah.
their potential for the next steps in their education. I just honestly, like, I'm blown away, like as and when we speak about this, you know, I've heard the air raid sirens and everything, and it's very impressive as to how you're handling this and how the community is
Mhm.
handling this. And it's just so important, that's for
Yeah.
sure. I guess what I was curious to know as well is like, yeah, just being a part of the ambassador community, like what does sort of that mean to you, or being part of community in general, like, and how are you making a difference as part of that, being part of a
So
community?
with the actual community, I've been speaking to a few ambassadors over the past few weeks actually, because my plans for after this is to teach international. I have so many international ambassadors
Mm.
who've been able to like say to me, like, if you want to teach in this country, you need this, you need that, you know, and give me like examples and pointed me in the way. Um, you know, and that's absolutely fantastic. I've had some people I shared in the ambassador Facebook group about the project we're working on, and some pictures and stuff of the area, and some of them got in touch and asked me, you know, like, how can we help? You know, whether it's donations, whether it's getting aid, spreading the word, just whatever. You know, like so many came to me just to try and help me with this. And that's really blown me away, because if I
Mm.
got that sort of response from my friends, it would be even better. These are people I don't even know. It's just because, um, you know, we've all been through Teach First. And as I say, it is a school we're working with. And, you know, it's been really inspiring to see that happen. So it has. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, that's amazing. And obviously, as you know, we're marking 20 years since the first cohort began. It's like Summer Institute. And I was just curious to know from your perspective what 20 years of Teach First means to you. I guess retrospective, reflecting, but also forward looking.
Yeah. So yeah, for somebody that didn't know anything about it, till 2 weeks before I applied. To in fact, knowing that it's been going for 20 years, um, it's fantastic. As I say, the ambassador community that I've met has been fantastic, and to know that so many people have gone through with the same mission. It's over 10,000, probably way more than that. I'm not sure on
Yeah.
the actual number. People that have been through the program, to know that there's that many people out there, over the past 20 years that wants to keep the education and equality mission alive and sorting it out, is fantastic. And here's to another 20 years.
No, that's amazing. And is there anything else you wanted to add about kind of your career journey, your story, and sort of obviously the work that you're doing at the moment, the volunteer work?
Just the only thing I would like to add really is just, if people want to help Ukraine, I'm not going to tell anybody to come out here. Don't worry. But it's just, it doesn't really make the news anymore. So if you can't donate, if you don't want to donate, whatever, just spread awareness of what's going on, because there's so many amazing projects going on out here, that some people don't know about. And we need awareness, because, as I say, this is the biggest humanitarian crisis in Europe since the Second World War. And even if it's just sharing a Facebook post, even if it's just sharing something on your Instagram story, just making people aware that this is still happening. Not only does it spread awareness, but the Ukrainian people themselves, whenever somebody shares something like that and they find out about it, they're so happy to know that they're being thought about. People might dismiss, oh, we're just thinking about them, or we're just sharing it or whatever. But no, the people here, like, genuinely are so happy when they know that that they are being thought about, that people are praying for them if you're religious. They really appreciate it. So yeah, that's the only thing really I want to add, is just, if you can share something, please just share it.
Yeah, and my hope is, this story and the conversation that's happening is something for the ambassador community to consider sharing. And obviously, as we mentioned, we're celebrating 20 years, and also like looking forward as part of that at the Great Ambassador Gathering, which unfortunately you can't attend. You've got lots of volunteer work that you're doing out there at the moment, so that's completely understandable. Hopefully you'll be able to catch up on what's happened at the event, but I know you don't mind me saying that if anybody does want to reach out, you're part of the Facebook group, the Ambassador Facebook group that we have. So, do reach out to William if you want to find out any more about his story, or share any stories of your own, like what you've been through, any kind of similarities, any interests. Let's continue connecting and create conversation. That's what it's all about. So yeah, hopefully you don't mind me sharing that about
you as well. Thank you.
No, that's great. And just, thanks obviously for taking the time out. We haven't had any sirens in this conversation. I'm tempting fate now, clearly. But no, it's amazing to hear from you. And despite all the kind of, connection issues and stuff that we might have had a few moments of, what you've said is incredibly powerful as to what you're doing. And in my opinion, very, very humble about it all. So just thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for sharing your story today.
No problem.